I haven't had much to say about this case prior to today because I didn't feel it was appropriate to do so until today. Ms. Hildebrandt, my client, has pled guilty today to 4 counts. She has done so because she takes responsibility for her conduct in this matter. Her guilty pleas, she decided to plead guilty before Ms. Franke entered into her plea agreement or agreed to cooperate with the state.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Jessica and welcome back to my channel. It feels so good to be back in just my this room here and just recording, and just it feels great to just be back. So if you don't know, I'm a stay-at-home mom, 2 young kids. Took a little bit of a break, although I posted like little whatever videos while I was gone. We went to another province, all this stuff, whatever. Little update if you're curious, my daughter is doing fantastic. Her healing and recovery is going so great. The 8 days we were in hospital were really rough. It was so bad, but that was bad, but I'm still thankful that she got the care she needed and is recovering well. So it's just still a process. She's barely sleeping. That doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter for you guys to know other than things are good. So I appreciate all the prayers, well wishes, because I got a ton of those comments just like nonstop on my videos. And I really, really appreciate it. It did really help me to see those. So anyways, let's get into today's video. All about Jodi Hildebrandt pleading guilty to 4 out of the 6 charges that were originally laid against her. So I'm gonna break it down. I do commentary. This is basically a commentary channel. So buckle up, I guess, for lots of talking. I don't know. Some people don't like it, but I do commentary. So commentary is literally talking. So appreciate everyone who's here. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Sorry for the long intro. Again, finally, let's get into today's video. I'm not gonna re-show the whole trial hearing video because I do have the raw video footage with no commentary here on my channel. You can go watch that if you want to see the whole thing without talking, but I just want to commentate on a few things. So let's get into that right now, which, okay, I'll play the first thing here and I'm going to show you both Ruby and Jodi's.
Ms. Franke, is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement?
No.
Anyone promising you anything I haven't been told about?
No.
Anything that's not in the written plea agreement?
No.
Are you under the influence of alcohol or drugs today?
No.
Is there anything today that could in any way interfere with your ability to understand the agreement, its consequences, anything?
No.
No physical condition, no medication, nothing?
No.
Time to ask Mr. Terry any questions that you have about the agreement or its potential effect?
Yes.
Is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement, or is anyone promising you anything that I haven't been told about or that is not in the written document?
No.
Are you under the influence of alcohol or drugs today?
No.
Is there anything today that could interfere in any way with your ability to understand the agreement, its potential consequences?
No.
No physical condition, mental health or emotional condition, nothing that could interfere with your present ability to evaluate the agreement and decide if it's what you're prepared to do today?
No.
You don't need more time, you're ready to go?
Yes.
So as you can see, both of their lawyers asked if anyone's pressuring you, blah, 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 you know, promise you things that haven't been already mentioned here. And the reason why, because I've been looking into it a lot, is because they want to limit the chance or the probability of an appeal happening, because it's just easier for a court system. Obviously, they want things to flow a certain way, but you could tell the way that Eric Clarke, I'll get into that a little bit later, but the way Eric Clarke, the district attorney, was talking about everything. He didn't want to share too much details because obviously this is still open. Nothing is set, and he doesn't want to risk ruining the due process of this whole trial type thing, because it is a trial type of thing. It's just not like going before a jury, if that makes sense. At least this is my understanding. So by asking that, yes, they're just trying to reduce the probability of that happening.
Any further record, counsel?
Your Honor, the agreement contains a factual basis. There are a few details in the factual basis that we are not in full agreement with. However, this is a guilty plea. It is not an Alford plea. The factual basis sets forth facts that we agree with, that Ms. Hildebrandt agrees with, that are sufficient for the court to accept her plea with respect to the 4 counts to which she is pleading guilty. And so we ask the court to accept her plea agreement.
And apart from what is in the written factual base in the plea agreement, you have I'm assuming, reviewed voluminous discovery, you don't dispute whether there is an actual or an adequate factual basis.
We do not.
So some other things I want to note is that Douglas Terry, he made a point to say that Jodi is admitting guilt and is not an Alford plea. An Alford plea is one of which that you admit guilt without admitting guilt. You admit that something has happened. So I'll read the actual definition here. So it says, an Alford plea, this plea may be used when the defendant wants the advantage of a plea bargain but cannot or will not admit guilt. Instead, the defendant pleads to avoid the potential consequences of going to trial and pleads without admitting guilt. A judge has discretion to reject this type of plea. So she did not have that type. He made a point to say that that's not that. And then the judge accepted both Ruby and Jodi's pleas, which means they're like, okay, cool, we accept that and we take that. So that's a really good thing to be aware of.
All right, then. Anything else before the court receives Ms. Hildebrandt's pleas?
No, Your Honor.
And then here is so weird to me how it's like, do you have nothing to state? And her lawyer, Douglas Terry, spoke for her that no, we have nothing to state. And then on Ruby's, she said, like, with deep regret when she was like pleading guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony.
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
But the thing that I find so weird is that, like, someone else commented on my video with the Ruby Franke one on saying that waiver hearings aren't typically places where people will, you know, say something for the victims or how they feel or whatever. That's more at the sentencing. But the judge gave the opportunity. Does anything else need to be said? So I think decency would show that you're going to say something, but maybe they think it's like going to fall on deaf ears, that people are just going to think they're not remorseful or whatever. But like, I obviously don't believe they're remorseful. I'm going to share more about that in a second here. I think it's wrong that they haven't said anything. It's just like, if you're really remorseful, wouldn't you say something? Like, wouldn't you like, you change your ways? It's just like they feel bad that they got caught, is my personal opinion with this whole thing. And the final thing I want to mention in regards to this hearing and like hearings, comparing the two, is the fact that a PSI was passed.
All of the terms of the agreement are stipulated, including that the court obtain a pre-sentence investigation report, correct?
Correct.
Will not contest a prison sentence.
Correct.
Is that right?
That is correct. But we are asking for a PSI.
All right. Then the court orders the preparation of a pre-sentence investigation report and set sentencing at 10:30 a.m. on February 20th. Anything else for today, counsel?
Nothing from us, Your Honor.
Nothing from us, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. We'll be in recess.
So first I'm going to share with you what a PSI is. I did find a lawyer and Dr. Phil talking about it. I might have to alter Dr. Phil's voice because I've heard he's really a stickler for fair use on YouTube. So I'm sorry if you find that annoying, because it just has to be what it'll be. If I have to alter his voice, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I'm going to share first what a PSI is. And this is like really thorough, great explanation. So I'm going to try to not cut it as much as possible. So let's roll that first.
Will you go over those and talk about why it's so important that these things are covered when they go into the pre-sentence hearing?
So we have to understand that at the pre-sentencing hearing, the probation officer has the narrative that's been given to them by the government, namely your plea agreement that shows you broke the law. Unless defendants begin to change that narrative, they're going to be judged by that plea agreement, by the government's version of events. So we coach defendants to articulate at a pre-sentence interview or in a narrative or statement they'll make or in a sentencing video 4 points. And the first is, it's not about you. It's not about how your life is imploding. You've got to identify with your victims. You've got to be able to say, as a result of my conduct, I created victims, I'm ashamed, and I'm embarrassed.
Ms. Hildebrandt, my client, has pled guilty today to 4 counts. She has done so because she takes responsibility for her conduct in this matter. She has pled guilty because she did not want these children to have to testify. She takes responsibility, and it is her main concern at this point that these children can heal, both physically and emotionally.
I recognized I hurt people. It's always the focus on the victims. It is not my friends, family, my community, and the victims. The victims always comes first. So that's number one. Number two, properly demonstrate your remorse. If we understand the stakeholders, the judge, prosecutor, probation officer may think, oh, you're only saying sorry because you got caught. Certainly some people say I'm sorry only because they got caught.
Sure.
So rather than a lot of lip service or happy talk, they've got to begin to convey through their own efforts, not just the lawyer. We talk about that a great deal through our work. Lawyers are paid to extol the virtues of their
Right.
clients. You look at the greatest criminals in our history, their lawyer said something, Charlie Manson, the lawyer probably said something about Charlie Manson positive at his sentencing. They're paid to do it.
Yeah.
And I hope these lawyers do it well. What we've learned is they've got to begin to articulate through their own efforts their remorse, their contrition, and build this record over a sustained period of time.
The Utah mother of 6 now alleges one of her children sexually assaulted one of their siblings and neighbors for years.
A statement made by Ruby's attorneys, who said on Friday to Scripps News Salt Lake City, they appeared to place blame on Hildebrandt, claiming that Franke is devoted mother who was taken advantage of by a person she trusted.
3, they need to talk about what they've learned through this experience. They need to become introspective. They need to walk the government through the pressures they face, the rationalizations they gave into, and the opportunities they seized. If they can begin to show that awareness, they then can convey, I'm not going to be here again. I've learned my lesson, more than just saying, I'm sorry, don't send me to prison because I have children, which is what a lot of defendants do. And number 4, they do have to convey to the judge and a probation officer and prosecutor why they're never going to return to a courtroom. And if they can convey those 4 points in a pre-sentence interview, they're going to begin to equalize the narrative. The government should begin to look at them for more than some out-of-character decisions they have made.
So a pre-sentence investigation is actually a good thing for finding out information, but yes, this is for them to prove their, like, who they are to the world. Because what I've seen from like a lot of videos is that the court is going to judge them based on the documents that they have right now and the evidence that they have right now. It's not going to be like, who were they before these crimes were committed or during the crimes committed? Who were they, you know? So Jodi's lawyer, Douglas Terry, has explicitly requested this, where Ruby Franke's lawyer, he, like, yes, he requested it, but it wasn't like this is like essential sort of thing. It's my understanding, or at least like when I saw it, I didn't get that feeling from him. So I think it is obviously important. They're going to interview witnesses. They're going to figure out, like, Jodi was really involved in her community. Not that Ruby wasn't. I think they're going to more so go the family angle with Ruby, interview her family members and, you know, maybe her children. I mean, they're going to have to do the children, obviously, but like, will they come to her defense? Like, I don't know. I think not. I'll be shocked. I mean, if they're so brainwashed, maybe they will come to their mother's defense. And then with Jodi, she knows a lot of people. Like, I wonder who was in that courthouse, because the angle that they show for all the only footage that came out for the courtroom, at least so far that I've seen, like as of this recording this evening, is the one angle where you can't see in the audience in the courtroom. So I wonder if that's on purpose. Like, was Pam there? Like, she's her best friend. Like, she should have been there in my mind. But it's just, yeah, it's interesting to me that, like, I don't know, like, we'll see going forward. We'll see going forward what this is going to show. And I know this is why Eric Clarke didn't want to speak much on it. And so now, rolling into that, as it fits so well, let's go into Eric Clarke, the district attorney being interviewed outside the courthouse when everything was happening. And then I'll fill in a little bit more of Douglas Terry, what I showed at the beginning of my video, of him talking and what he thinks about everything.
I'm Washington County Attorney Eric Clarke, and I just have a brief statement that we'll read, and then we'll be happy to release this along with the signed plea agreement to anybody that requested today. So this morning, Jodi Hildebrandt pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. She will remain incarcerated, awaiting sentencing, which will occur on February 20th, 2024. As part of the plea agreement, Ms. Hildebrandt agreed to be sentenced to consecutive, as opposed to concurrent, prison terms for each of the 4 counts. One of the toughest things we ask victims of alleged abuse to do is testify in a trial against their abusers. We are pleased that in this case, and in Ms. Franke's case, that won't be necessary. That both defendants will be going to prison without having to hold a trial. We're grateful to the multidisciplinary team that investigated this case. We have great law enforcement officers, caseworkers, Children's Justice Center staff, both in our area and in Utah County. Additional information about Ms. Hildebrandt and Ms. Franke's cases, including redacted investigative materials, will be available upon request 30 days after sentencing of both defendants. For further information, please refer to the statement of defendant in support of guilty plea that was filed with the court this morning, and we'll be happy to make that available. Thanks, you guys.
Why were 2 of the counts dismissed?
So, in any plea agreement, there's always some back and forth in that, and in this instance, 2 counts were dismissed, and what they what Ms. Hildebrandt agreed to do was to not contest that for each of the terms that would be prison, and that those would run consecutive as opposed to concurrent.
But why not all 6?
Well, so I think that's a fair question, and that's what, as a prosecutor, that's what you deal with every time you're handling a case, right? Is if our plea offer had been there is no plea offer, plead straight up to all 6, then the defendant has no incentive to go to trial, and we're not afraid of trials. We don't want to avoid trials. Trials carry some risk in that you don't know what the outcome's going to be, but more so when you have victims that are having to go through the trial process, that's difficult. And so if we can get a result that is similar.
The thing here about him saying that they're not opposed to trials, blah, 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 is the stat that I'm going to read on my phone here and show you on the screen. It says in Utah between 2014 and 2019, at least 91% of criminal cases statewide were resolved by a plea, with most of these years reaching above 93%. So they're one of the highest places to have had plea deals, which is crazy to me that he's saying that we don't like blah, blah, blah. And everyone's saying for the children, which I totally get for the children. I think they could have got a lot more for Jodi and Ruby had they gone to trial. Like, I know it's sad to have children testify and they're trying to reduce this, but is it more a statistic really with Utah? What do you guys think? I mean, I'm sure people think I'm wrong, but that's just what my thoughts are on what he just said.
In Utah, there's the maximum penalty for second-degree felonies is 30 years. So if we had 15 counts, the maximum amount of time would have been 30 years, and each count carries a 1 to 15 years. So the difference in reality between 4 counts and 6 counts, in our calculation, wasn't enough to justify asking victims to go through a trial.
Okay, so remember when posts came out that said, like, they could get 90 years, blah, blah, blah. Like, people weren't looking into Utah law. I didn't until he said this, and I looked into it further. This is, in fact, true. The most that Jodi and Ruby are going to serve is 30 years. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, 10 years, 7 years, whatever. What it looks like is that, because of what Clarke said, is that the most they can serve is 30, but it doesn't even look like they're going to get that. Like, they're more shooting for 15 is the max they could get. It's probably going to be less than that. But it's interesting. The reason why they just decided to go with a plea deal is not because they couldn't win in trial, but because of the max only being 30 years. I'm sure if the max was, unlimited max, I don't know how the law works in that regard, but that they could have pushed for a trial, and then it would have been better for the children to have true justice served rather than, these women getting out in a couple of years. So this is like bombshell information to me because I had no idea, but it's the reason why they're probably not going to serve much time because just Utah law, it's sad, honestly. And people are really upset because this is a very public case, and I very much understand that. But unfortunately, like, there's not good laws in place to actually protect children. Like, really, honestly, if you hear about stories all the time, things are often not done until, like, an unaliving happens, which is extremely sad. This is just my, perspective, obviously. It doesn't mean it's fact, but yeah, this is what I think.
Part of Ruby Franke's plea deal was to testify against Jodi Hildebrandt. That was, a big part of that plea deal. Does that mean that is irrelevant now? She will not have to testify against Jodi?
That's what I anticipate, yeah.
When it comes to prosecutors always have to determine who they think is the more culpable party and co-defendants. Who do you believe is the more culpable party?
I'll be more comfortable speaking about specifics in the cases after sentencing, and then we wait for the 30 days to make sure that appellate time is run, and that's just us being super careful to make sure that procedurally we're not doing anything that could complicate a case down the road and overturn a conviction. So I'm not going to get into thought processes at this point.
Okay, so this is what I was alluding to a little bit earlier, is the fact that he says they wait till the 30 days. I was like, what the heck? It took me so long to even figure out what that meant. Is that after sentencing, so February 20th is when the sentencing is supposed to happen. And why is it so far away? First of all, I looked into it. So it says really sentencing should happen 6 weeks after, which is just short, shy of that. I can't remember. Alexa, how many weeks until February 20th?
Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 is in 7 weeks.
Okay, so it's only 7 weeks away, it's like a week off of what the Utah laws say that it should be. But in the trials, in the hearings for both Ruby and Jodi, they said, are you willing to waive time?
Counsel, what about sentencing on February 20th? I think Do you and your client agree to waive time, counsel?
We do agree to waive time, Your Honor.
And for me, I was like always thinking that it had to do with like time served. No, they mean, are you willing to waive time as in like, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Like, we'll just take whatever court dates we have. Like, it's okay that it moves slower than what the law dictates it should move. So that's what they were agreeing to. So this is happening 7 weeks. That's the only reason why. It's like getting, like, there's no like deep thing on why that's happening. That's just like, I've heard that so many times, I just didn't know, but that, yeah, that's the reason why. In regards to the 30 days, that has to do with the appeal. So once they've been sentenced in February, they can appeal, and within 30 days they can appeal. And just like even right now, I didn't even know with this plea deal, they're saying like the likelihood of that happening is low, but they still have the ability. I think they still have 30 days now to appeal their plea, which is crazy. So it could still go to trial. It's not like indefinitely, it's not going to go to trial. Like, you can tell the way that Eric Clarke is talking here, he sounds unsure, but he's smart. He's an attorney. He should know is that there's still a massive possibility that this, maybe not massive, but there's still a possibility this could go to trial. Like, they could be like, you know, whatever, which is why they ask all those questions of like, has anyone like coerced you? Are you under the influence of drugs and alcohol? That kind of stuff, because they're trying to reduce the possibility of an appeal happening. Like, because they can come back and be like, well, someone told me I was going to get this and I didn't get this, so now I don't want to, you know, that could happen as well, which is crazy. So, and then what Eric Clarke says also about 30 days is that after they've been sentenced, they're probably not going to share anything now until that 30 days has passed for, to share anything more or their thoughts or whatever. And side note, sorry, tangent going off in now, is I have requested the body cam footage. At first, I requested from the wrong department, and, you know, life got busy, whatever. But I heard back from the right departments, and then I have filed an appeal with the Utah commissioner to hopefully get the body cam footage. But from, like, it is a grandma request, so it's like we the people are entitled to that information. But they said they don't want it to interfere, and they said they will release it to me when they don't want it to interfere with the hearing or the trial. But it doesn't mean the news doesn't already have it. I feel like they should already have it, because obviously they like do this all the time. They get body cam footage all the time, and I use theirs, and I just like edit it the way I wanted to edit it, you know. So I would really like crossing my fingers, like, please, universe, give me the body cam footage. I want it, you know. But whatever will be, right? Like, I can't stress about that, but I think they're probably going to give it to the news first, obviously, but they said they're going to give it to me. So hopefully I get it, and we'll see what happens with my appeal. I have 30 days. I had 30 days from when they like rejected. They said it was not a rejection. They just said it's like a pause kind of thing. I can't remember the exact lingo that they use, but yeah, I filed my appeal, so we'll see what happens with that. And they obviously don't want to release it because they said they don't want it to interfere with a fair trial for Jodi and Ruby. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I covered the Alexi Treviso case, and they have all that footage out, so that makes no sense. And she's awaiting trial, you know, so she didn't even like take a plea. She just said not guilty. But that's whatever will be is what I've been saying. I'm trying not to stress too much, but I want it. Someone else is gonna have it, but it is what it is. I'll post whatever comes out and do whatever I'm gonna do with that footage. But yeah, I just want to share that.
Daniela with KSL 5 News. The defense attorney said that Hildebrandt chose to plead guilty before Ruby Franke made the decision.
Her guilty pleas, she decided to plead guilty before Ms. Franke entered into her plea agreement or agreed to cooperate with the state.
To plead guilty. Is your office aware of the timeline there in which plea happened first? Which agreement happened first?
No, in that we weren't talking to both Hildebrandt and Franke, right? It was clear to us we knew that Franke was going to plead earlier than Hildebrandt. Thus, like, Franke's the deal that Franke pled to included her agreeing to testify against Ms. Hildebrandt, and also that we would not submit things to the parole board asking that she stay in prison for a longer term. So that was in Franke's plea. That's not in the paperwork that you guys will see for Hildebrandt's plea.
I haven't had much to say about this case prior to today because I didn't feel it was appropriate to do so until today. Ms. Hildebrandt, my client, has pled guilty today to 4 counts. She has done so because she takes responsibility for her conduct in this matter. Her guilty pleas, she decided to plead guilty before Ms. Franke entered into her plea agreement or agreed to cooperate with the state. She has pled guilty because she did not want these children to have to testify. She takes responsibility. And it is her main concern at this point that these children can heal, both physically and emotionally. We look forward to sentencing. That's all I have to say today.
There are people all over the world that are coming out and saying that Jodi Hildebrandt has destroyed families, that she has hurt a lot of people. Has she seen this kind of the backlash that's happening, and what does she have to say about it?
I'm not going to have any more comment, nor is she, at least prior to sentencing. Thank you.
When will the sentencing take place?
February 20th. Thank you.
Can you terms of the agreement as far as how that pertains to sentencing, and is there a specific range that the court has agreed to?
She's agreed to a prison sentence, 4 counts, consecutive, the same as Ms. Franke. Exactly the same as Ms. Franke.
In Utah, there's rumors about consecutive sentences. How long could her sentence term be then? Could all 4 be consecutive together?
Ultimately, it's up to the Utah Board of Pardons, and I'm not going to speculate at this point how long she might serve. Thank you.
Okay, so what I can see from this Douglas Terry, what he just said, is that he made a point to say that Jodi was in talks with a plea agreement before Ruby. So when I looked at the signed documents, the dates show that Ruby actually signed hers before Jodi, but that doesn't matter because when I checked the law, they can sign it up until like the minute before the hearing happens. So that doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean she wasn't in talks, but it sounds like she was in talks. And then the way that he said he like had a dig at Ruby, like saying that like if she was cooperating with the police, and we know from seeing Kevin and both Ruby and Ruby's traffic stop, and then Kevin when he got his stuff back from when his daughter Sherry took his belongings from their house, is that they don't really cooperate with the police. I'm not saying you have to be a person who cooperates with the police, but it's showing the track record here, right? And so I can tell the way that Ruby was talking. I like rewatched her court hearing again and comparing it with Jodi's, and it seems like Jodi's really trying to go the route that like with the PSI is to show that the victims, they matter. You know, she doesn't matter. She's trying to like speak about the victims like her lawyer did. I mean, a lawyer's being paid, like that other guy said, a lawyer's being paid to speak on behalf of you, and they should be saying nice, great things about you. But it seems like Ruby's the one, okay? We all know Ruby is the one who treated her children like pure garbage. And yes, Jodi is a very bad person, who has a bad influence on her and has a bad track record treating people like shit herself. But Ruby is the parent of these children. Kevin is a parent of these children. And also, I'm going to go off now in a second into the charges, and it's crazy. I found 2 differences, and then I hopped on the Reddit and I saw that other people noticed that too. But I'm happy that I read the document for myself, so I know, like, rather than hearing from somebody else, like what it says is that, you know, like Ruby really is the mastermind here. Jodi just like, you know, pushed her over the edge a little bit more, but Ruby is the mastermind here. So I can't even remember what I was just saying, and I'm sorry that I went off in this tangent and forgot, but I'm going to pull up my phone here, of course, and I want to read to you guys the differences that I found in the 2. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all the charges. There's other channels out there like Long Crime Org went through all of the charges about Jodi and Ruby, okay, like the nitty-gritty details. The one thing, so I'm showing you here with the charge 1 that goes into great detail about RF, you know, Russell. People don't like that I say the name, but you have to know, like, these are public figures, okay? And I know the children don't consent to being public figures, but their name's already all over. Their pictures are not blurred all over the place. I'm just saying their name. I'm not going to show their picture with that. But the RF is referring to the only male underage one. She has another son, Chad, who's overage, like over the age 18, you know, whatever. But so this is referring to him, and there's a lot of information here regarding him. But then the one thing in the charge that's listed for Ruby that is not listed for Jodi is this: specific instances of abuse committed by the defendant, including 1, kicking RF while wearing boots, 2, holding his head underwater, and 3, cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his nose and mouth. That is not listed in Jodi's charges. Ruby did that, okay? That is, yes, they both did CA with the children, but that is messed up, okay? That was Ruby, the mother of the children, okay? Like, we know from the things I've covered is that Jodi did not have full custody of her children this entire time of their whole upbringing, so this is mental to me, okay? This is from charge 1. And charge 4, there is another discrepancy, but this is with Jodi. No, okay, I'm gonna, even though I have that Jodi at the top there and Ruby at the bottom, I'm gonna read Ruby's charges for count 4 first, and then you'll see. Okay, the defendant's actions caused 2 or more physical injuries to EF. This is for Eve, their daughter. And again, it has to be said. I won't keep saying it, but that's just the one time I'll say it. She was forced to work outside in the heat barefoot. She was also forced to run barefoot on dirt roads for an extended period of time. EF's feet were repeatedly injured by, and she was repeatedly sunburned. When examined on August 30th, these wounds were apparent by scabs, blisters, and sloughing skin. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, I haven't looked it up. Okay, now for Jodi's count 4. The defendant's actions caused 2 or more physical injuries to EF. She was forced to work outside in the heat barefoot. She was also forced to run barefoot on dirt roads for extended periods of time. EF's feet were repeatedly injured, and she was repeatedly sunburned. When examined on August 30th, these wounds were apparent by scabs, blisters, and sloughing skin. Then now this is an additional point that was not listed on Ruby's charges about the counts of the charges, Additionally, the defendant either physically forced or coerced EF to jump into a cactus multiple times. What? We know where Ruby lived, we know where Jodi's house is in the desert. Obviously, cactus is there. And the reason why they have to say this or that is because these are underage children who've been brainwashed into believing things about themselves, that they're horrible, they're not worthy of love, all this kind of horrible, horrible things. But this is crazy. So Ruby's the one who held RF's face underwater, cut off oxygen by holding her hand over his mouth and over his nose at the same time. And then Jodi is the one who coerced or pushed EF, an underage little girl, into a freaking cactus. Like, crazy. Yeah, this is... Sorry. Now let's just go further into this video. So to close out this video, the last things I want to kind of talk about, or the last things I do want to talk about, are what is like the next steps here. So we know that Jodi and Ruby's sentencing hearings are happening in 7 weeks on February 20th, which I believe is a Tuesday in 2024. And then after that, there's 30 days on which they can appeal their sentence. And then after that, it's all good. Their sentence, they go to prison, jail, whatever. They go for whatever they're sentencing. And then with Ruby, it has been said that there's no, they can't come at her if she wants to appeal things. And I can't remember the exact word. I'll have to put on the screen later when I edit. Is what are they called? Bail hearings or something like that. So if Ruby wants to get out sooner, those type of hearings, whatever they're called, I can't remember. My brain is not working right now. Those hearings Ruby can have. But in Jodi's plea agreement, she doesn't have that. So from what I can see and what Eric Clarke has said, she won't have the ability to fight her sentence and have reduced time as good time served,
In Franke's case, you agreed to stay neutral for parole board hearings. Did the same agreement happen with Hildebrandt or no? So there's I know we can't predict the future, but so the door is open for the Washington County Attorney's Office to go to Hildebrandt's parole hearings and say, we believe she needs to stay in. Okay.
That's a good question. So the answer to that is yes. More commonly, the prosecutor's office can submit a letter or submit things in addition to the pre-sentence investigation that might help probation parole. But there's always the option of actually going in person and being at those hearings also.
Which I think is why probably Douglas Terry is really pushing for this PSI and how important it is, so that she doesn't get as big of a sentence as, we, the public, would think that she deserves to get. So that is good to know. So there's a lot of things looked forward to here, and not an excitement, but just this is what is going to happen next. It's going to be probably quiet for a little bit until more information, more discovery comes out. If the body cam comes out, who knows if that's going to come out. That will be... I am waiting on that. And then if they appeal, if they go to trial, we'll see what happens in this coming time. In the next 30 days, we're going to learn a lot. So if nothing happens in the next 30 days, then that means they're not going to go to trial. So we'll see what happens from December. So till January 27th, we'll see, are they going to go to trial? If they decide to go back on their appeal and then maybe they claim insanity or coercion or something like that, we'll see. Okay, so that is all I have for today's video. I'm sure more information has come out that I haven't been able to talk about. So if that happens, I'll make another video. I am still, now that I'm back home here, I'm going to work on doing my OK Baby video. I know this is maybe interesting, but I just want to do commentary on things I find interesting. So I'm doing law and other topics, but I have really looked at the timeline of OK Baby. Oh my God, I have watched almost every single OK Baby video and listened to almost every single episode of Beneath the Sheets podcast with Hannah and Kira and I know them so freaking well now. I'm sure there's things about them that I'm missing because I can't possibly, like, I literally, like, I feel like I've lost so many brain cells. And then, like, as I'm trying to do more research on them and, like, re-listen to some stuff so that I put everything in order and get it right, I feel like I'm losing more brain cells. It's just like, I cannot believe they all had a platform and still continue to have platforms, and whatever. I'm exhausted right now. Lots going on in my life that I haven't shared and probably won't share for a long time, but it's been an emotional day. So I thank you so much to all the new subscribers. I really appreciate you guys all being here as I figure out my channel and just figure out my style and how I want to do things and what I want to talk about. I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you guys had a great Christmas season, and I hope your new year is amazing. So bye guys. Have a great night.